There is a specific kind of silence that happens when a man kneels down beside something broken. Not the silence of giving up, not the silence of confusion, something else entirely, a quieting, a narrowing of attention so complete that the rest of the world, the noise, the pressure, the thousand unresolved things simply falls away. And in that moment, the only thing that exists is the problem in front of him and the slow, patient work of understanding it. You've seen this man before, maybe you are this man. He doesn't panic when things stop working. He doesn't reach for his phone to call someone. He doesn't stand there feeling helpless, orbiting the problem without touching it. He gets low. He looks closer. He starts asking questions that most people would never think to ask, not because he was trained to, but because something in him needs to understand how things work. Most people never notice what's really happening in that moment, because it was never about the machine. On the surface, it looks simple. A man fixing an engine, a man rewiring a circuit panel, a man lying under a sink at midnight with a flashlight clenched in his teeth, refusing to call a plumber for something he believes he can figure out himself. From the outside, it looks like practicality, frugality maybe, a preference for doing things yourself. But psychology tells a different story. What you're actually watching when you watch a man like this is a form of self-regulation so deeply embedded in his identity that he may not even have words for it. You're watching someone manage the internal through the external. You're watching someone who has learned somewhere along the way that the fastest route to feeling stable is to make something work that wasn't working before. Psychologists call this self-efficacy, the belief that your actions can produce real outcomes in the real world. And for certain men, this belief isn't abstract. It isn't a mindset they repeat to themselves. It's something they prove over and over again with their hands. The machine is the medium, the point is the proof. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called internal locus of control, the degree to which a person believes they are the author of their own circumstances. People with a strong internal locus don't wait for the world to accommodate them. They move toward problems. They assume agency before they've confirmed they have it. Men who fix things have this almost constitutionally. But what's interesting isn't just that they feel capable, it's why they need to feel capable. Because underneath the competence, beneath the calm diagnostic mind and the steady hands and the refusal to quit, there is almost always a quiet, rarely spoken fear. The fear of helplessness. Not of failure exactly. Failure they can work with. Failure gives them information. What they cannot tolerate, what registers somewhere deep and wordless, is the feeling of being at the mercy of something they can't influence, of standing in front of a broken world with nothing to offer it. This is where the behavior gets psychologically interesting. Because fixing things isn't just about fixing things. It's about maintaining a relationship with reality that says, I can affect this. I am not passive. I am not without use. Comment 1 if you've ever felt that. Watch how a man like this moves through a problem. He doesn't approach it emotionally. He doesn't catastrophize. He gets quiet, systematic, almost detective-like, peeling back symptoms to find causes, ruling out explanations with the kind of methodical patience that most people save for things they care deeply about. And he does care deeply, just not in the way people expect. The caring isn't sentimental, it's almost philosophical. There is a right answer. There is a reason this thing stopped working, and that reason can be found, and once found, corrected. The universe, in this small domain at least, is knowable, and that knowability is a source of profound psychological comfort. Neuroscience has something to say about this, too. The brain's reward system responds powerfully to mastery experiences, moments when effort produces understanding, and understanding produces resolution. Dopamine doesn't just respond to pleasure. It responds to prediction confirmed, to the satisfaction of a hypothesis proven right, to the sound of an engine turning over after it had gone silent. That sound isn't just mechanical. For certain men, it's almost medicinal. But here is what nobody talks about. If you understand this kind of man, really understand him, you start to notice something beneath the competence, something he rarely names and almost never shows. The fixing is often a language, a way of expressing care that doesn't require vulnerability, a way of saying, "I love you" through action rather than declaration. A man who rewires his father's garage at 60 years old, who drives 3 hours to help his sister with a leaking roof, who stays until midnight making sure everything works, he is not just fixing infrastructure, he is saying something. And sometimes the fixing is even more private than that. Sometimes it's a man alone in his garage at 11 at night, working on something that doesn't strictly need to be worked on, because the act of working on it, the focus it demands, the small victories it offers, the feeling of being useful even when no one is watching, is the only thing that quiets whatever is loud inside him. This is emotional regulation through physical competence, and it is far more sophisticated than it looks. He isn't avoiding his feelings, he is metabolizing them. He is turning internal pressure into productive action and finding in that action something that resembles peace. We live in an era that has quietly eroded this. Not deliberately, not maliciously, but the architecture of modern life has made helplessness the default. Things are designed to be replaced rather than repaired. Problems are outsourced rather than solved. Difficulty is something to be avoided rather than engaged. And there's a psychological cost to that one we don't talk about nearly enough. When people stop having the experience of struggling with something real and overcoming it through effort and skill, something happens to how they feel about themselves, not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, a kind of quiet erosion, a creeping sense that they are passengers rather than drivers, that the world operates on them rather than through them. Learned helplessness, the psychological condition where repeated exposure to uncontrollable outcomes causes people to stop trying, even when control becomes possible, doesn't only happen in laboratories. It happens in ordinary life, slowly, as people discover they can outsource every inconvenience and mistake that experience for freedom. The man who fixes things has chosen something different. Whether consciously or not, he has chosen to remain in contact with physical reality, to maintain a relationship with difficulty, to keep proving through repeated and unglamorous effort that he is capable of solving problems that the world throws at him. That is not a small thing. Here is what it actually is, when you look at it clearly. It is a man insisting on his own agency. It is a man who has decided, somewhere below the level of language, that he will not be helpless, that when something breaks, he will be the one who fixes it. Not because it's always efficient, not because he always succeeds, but because the trying, the kneeling down, the looking closer, the refusing to walk away is itself the point. Because what he is really fixing every single time is his relationship with his own capability. Every repaired engine is a small piece of evidence. Every solved problem is a data point in an ongoing argument he is having with the part of himself that worries he isn't enough. Every time something stops working and he makes it work again, he is not just solving a mechanical problem. He is proving something to himself. And maybe that's why it feels so important. And maybe that's why it's so hard to walk away from an unfinished problem. And maybe that's why the satisfaction goes so much deeper than it should for something as ordinary as a machine running the way it's supposed to run. It was never about the machine. It was about becoming someone who couldn't be stopped by the machine. It was about a man, in a quiet moment, proving to himself one more time that he could make broken things whole.